The HFY of Conquest, the Grand Admiral's flagship, inevitable conquest, hung in the darkness of space like a predatory sea creature, its hull adorned with the battle scars of 100 successful campaigns. Inside the strategy chamber, Grand Admiral Zorkel stood before a three-dimensional projection of a small blue planet, third from its unremarkable yellow star. Earth. He pronounced the word with difficulty, his four mandibles clicking in distaste. Classification: Deathworld 13. Recommendation: absolute quarantine. His senior staff, the finest military minds of the galactic hegemony, exchanged uneasy glances. The classification system only went to 10. The 13 was unprecedented. The indigenous species calls themselves humans, continued Science Officer Vexra, her iridescent scales shimmering under the holographic light. They evolved in what should have been impossible conditions: extreme temperature variations, high gravity, toxic oxygen atmosphere, constant radiation bombardment from their star, and competition with apex predators that would terrify even our most hardened warriors. Battle Commander Kravok scoffed, the sound echoing through his respiratory chambers. Yet they appear primitive. Their technological development is inconsistent. They've barely reached their own moon. That is precisely what concerns me, Vexra replied, calling up images of human civilization. Their advancement pattern is erratic. They developed nuclear capabilities before achieving global unity. They created worldwide information networks before resolving basic resource inequalities. They're unpredictable. Grand Admiral Zorkel dismissed the concerns with a wave of his upper limbs. The High Council has spoken. This world contains rare minerals critical to our new hyperdrive technology. Preliminary scans indicate vast deposits of element 479. We take this world. With respect, Admiral. Science Officer Vexra persisted. The classification team strongly warned. The classification team are scientists, not warriors, interrupted Kravok. My battle simulations show we can overwhelm their primitive defenses within one planetary rotation. The humans have never encountered a spacefaring civilization. They will surrender when faced with our technological superiority. Admiral Zorkel's compound eyes fixed on the rotating blue planet. Deploy the Fifth Fleet. 20,000 of our finest warriors. Standard subjugation protocol. Yes, Admiral. Battle Commander Kravok bowed, his carapace gleaming with anticipation. Victory is inevitable. Science Officer Vexra's voice was quiet but clear. I recommend we review the field reports that led to the Class 13 designation. Unnecessary, Zorkel dismissed. Begin the operation immediately. 2 weeks later, the invasion fleet emerged from hyperspace in Earth's solar system, positioning themselves behind the planet's moon to avoid early detection. Commander Kravok stood on the bridge of the assault carrier Unquestioned Dominance, watching as his troops prepared for deployment. Status report, he demanded. All 20,000 warriors ready for drop, Commander. His second-in-command responded. Forward scouts report minimal planetary defenses. The humans appear to have no unified military command. Their forces are fragmented by geographical and political boundaries. Kravok's mandibles clicked in satisfaction. Perfect. Deploy the first wave. 5,000 dropships descended through Earth's atmosphere, their stealth technology rendering them invisible to human detection systems. They targeted a remote area for their forward base, a stretch of forested land far from major human population centers. The landing was flawless. Within hours, the advance force had established a perimeter, set up defense systems, and begun constructing the command center. Commander Kravok received the initial reports with growing confidence. No resistance encountered. Local wildlife has been neutralized. Area secure. He turned to his communications officer. Prepare the announcement broadcast. Standard subjugation message, translated into all major human languages. Inform them of their new status as a protectorate of the hegemony. The broadcast went out globally, overriding all human communication channels. Across Earth, Screens display the imposing form of Commander Kravok as he informed humanity of its defeat and demanded immediate surrender. The first response came 30 minutes later, not from world leaders, but from a small military unit that had been conducting exercises near the landing zone. A patrol of human soldiers, stumbling upon the alien perimeter, opened fire immediately. Their primitive projectile weapons posed no threat to the advanced armor of the hegemony warriors, but their lack of fear, their immediate aggression when confronted with clearly superior forces, was unexpected. Resistance crushed, reported Field Commander Dresnar. 12 humans neutralized. No casualties on our side. Commander Kravok dismissed the incident. A minor skirmish. Continued deployment. But more reports began coming in. Human military forces worldwide were mobilizing with surprising speed. Instead of panic or surrender, the fragmented nations of Earth were uniting against the common threat. They're conducting coordinated strikes against our perimeter. Dresnar reported 6 hours later, his voice tinged with confusion. Small units, hit and run tactics. They're probing our defenses, testing our responses. Kravok growled in irritation. Crush them. Deploy the second wave. Another 5,000 warriors descended to the surface. The hegemony expanded its foothold, establishing secondary bases and beginning resource extraction operations. But the human resistance intensified. At the 24-hour mark, Field Commander Dresnar's report was grim. We've lost 200 warriors. The humans are adapting. They've observed that our energy shields block their projectile weapons, so they've switched to primitive kinetic weapons, bladed instruments, blunt objects. When our armor proved resistant, they began using the environment against us. They're luring our patrols into traps, using the terrain to their advantage. For the first time, Commander Kravok felt a flutter of unease. They are savages with sticks. Deploy the third wave. The next 5,000 warriors joined the battle. The hegemony now had 15,000 troops on Earth's surface, 3/4 of their total force. By all logic, the humans should have been overwhelmed. But 3 days into the invasion, disaster struck. They'd breached Base Alpha. Dresnar's voice was frantic over the communication channel. The humans have captured our weapons, our technology. They're turning it against us. They learned too quickly. In the background, Kravok could hear explosions and the distinctive sound of hegemony plasma rifles, now in human hands. Impossible, he whispered. Their primitive minds couldn't possibly understand our technology so quickly. Sir, his intelligence officer interrupted. We've intercepted human communications. They're sharing information globally, disseminating what they learn about our weaknesses. They're coordinating on a planetary scale now. Commander Kravok stared at the tactical display in disbelief. All across their landing zone, red indicators showed hegemony forces in retreat or under attack. Even more disturbing, human forces weren't just fighting defensively. They were capturing alien technology, adapting it, and deploying it with frightening speed. Deploy the final wave, he ordered. All remaining troops. We will not be defeated by primitives. The last 5,000 warriors descended into what had become not a subjugation operation, but a desperate battle for survival. Kravok himself prepared to join the fight, donning his ceremonial battle armor. Science Officer Vexra approached him before he boarded his command shuttle. Commander, I've reviewed the classification reports, she said quietly. Earth was designated Class 13 because humans possess something our species has never encountered before. What? He demanded, mandibles clicking in agitation. Adaptive aggression, she replied. Most species become more cautious when facing superior technology or strength. Humans become more aggressive, more innovative. They don't retreat from power, they seek to claim it, understand it, and turn it against their enemies. Kravok dismissed her with a gesture. I will show them the true meaning of aggression. He never returned from the surface. His final transmission came 18 hours later, his voice barely recognizable through static and what sounded like human weapons fire in the background. The reports were correct, he gasped. They were waiting for us. This wasn't a discovery, it was a trap. They've been watching us for decades. Earth isn't primitive. They maintain that appearance deliberately. They let us establish our bases. They let us deploy our forces. And then they came from everywhere. The transmission cut off abruptly, leaving the bridge of the unquestioned dominance in stunned silence. Grand Admiral Zorkel, monitoring the situation from the flagship, made the decision that would haunt him for the remainder of his life. "Retreat," he ordered. "Recall all surviving forces immediately." Of the 20,000 warriors deployed to Earth, fewer than 200 made it back to the evacuation ships. The fleet broke orbit under heavy fire. The humans had already adapted hegemony technology to create orbital defense systems. As the ships prepared to jump to hyperspace, a final transmission came from Earth's surface. A human voice, speaking perfect hegemonic. "You came uninvited. You threatened our world. You have seen only a fraction of our capability. Remember this day, and choose carefully whether Earth shall be your ally or your enemy." The transmission ended with a set of coordinates, the location of a single hegemony survivor, drifting in an escape pod just beyond Earth's atmosphere. The HFY's tail. Senior Medical Officer Trell Van moved methodically through the quarantine chamber, monitoring the life signs of the sole survivor recovered from Earth. The warrior, once a proud member of the elite Shadowclaw division, lay on the examination platform, his exoskeleton cracked and discolored, one limb completely severed at the joint. "Vitals stabilizing," Trellvan reported, her voice clinically detached despite the horror she felt. She had treated veterans of 100 campaigns, but never had she seen injuries like these. "Subject is regaining consciousness." Grand Admiral Zorkel stood on the other side of the transparent barrier, his posture rigid with suppressed rage and fear. The fleet had retreated to the edge of the solar system, maintaining minimum safe distance from the blue planet that had decimated his forces. "Has he been scanned for tracking devices?" the Admiral demanded. "Multiple times," Trellvan confirmed. "We found one embedded in his severed lime socket. It has been neutralized and ejected into space." The survivor's compound eyes flickered, then focused. Recognition registered as he saw the Admiral. With visible effort, he attempted to rise into a position of respect. "At ease, warrior," Zorkel said, activating the communication system. "You are aboard the inevitable conquest. You are safe." A sound escaped the survivor, something between a click and a laugh. "Safe? None of us are safe now." The warrior's name was Kendrak, once a squad leader in the Shadowclaw Division's infiltration unit. His record showed 12 successful campaigns, decorations for valor, exemplary service evaluations, a model soldier of the hegemony. Now he trembled visibly as medical officer Trellvan administered stabilizing compounds to his broken body. "Report, squad leader," the Admiral commanded. "What happened on the surface?" Kendrak's mandibles twitched erratically. "They were waiting for us, Admiral. The humans. They knew our tactics, our technology, our weaknesses. The invasion was a test. Their test of us, not our test of them." "Impossible," Zorkel dismissed. "Their technology is primitive. They have barely achieved spaceflight. That's what they wanted us to believe." Zendrak's voice strengthened with urgency. "Their technological development isn't erratic, it's disguised. They maintain a deliberate appearance of division and primitive capability to lure threats into revealing themselves." Trellvan exchanged glances with the Admiral. The medical scans showed no evidence of mind-altering substances or neural tampering, yet the survivor's claims seemed delusional. "Continue," Zorkel ordered. "They let us establish our forward bases," Zendrak continued. "They studied our defenses, our weapons, our communication systems. Then they struck, not as separate nations, but as a unified planet. Their soldiers, his voice faltered. Their soldiers fought like nothing I've ever encountered. When our shields blocked their projectile weapons, they switched to kinetic attacks. When our armor resisted those, they adapted our own technology against us with impossible speed. The medical monitors showed Sendrak's stress levels spiking dangerously. Trellvan administered a calming agent, but the warrior pushed on. One human warrior they called a Marine killed 30 of my division before we could bring him down. He kept fighting even after losing limbs. They don't retreat when facing superior force. They become more aggressive, more innovative. What of Commander Kravok? The Admiral asked. Sendrak's compound eyes dimmed. Dead Admiral. He led the final counterattack personally. The humans targeted our command structure with precision. They knew exactly who to eliminate to create maximum chaos in our ranks. Zorkel's mandibles tightened against his face. How did you survive when thousands of your comrades fell? I didn't escape, Sendrak said, echoing the words that would soon become infamous throughout the hegemony. They sent me back. Silence fell in both the quarantine chamber and the observation room. Explain, the Admiral finally said. I was captured during the fall of Base Omega. Their soldiers disarmed me, but kept me alive. They brought me before their military leadership, a coalition of commanders from different nations. They questioned me about our intentions, our empire, our other enemies. You were interrogated, the Admiral stated flatly. Did you compromise hegemony security? Sendrak's body trembled. Admiral, they already knew everything. Names of our worlds, composition of our fleets, even details of our political structure. They've been observing us for decades. The quarantine beacons we placed around their system a century ago. They discovered them, studied them, and chose to leave them in place to maintain the illusion of isolation. Medical Officer Trellvan interjected. Admiral, the subject's neural patterns show extreme stress. These could be hallucinations or implanted memories. They are not, Sendrak insisted. The human commander showed me the records of our civilization. They'd been intercepting and decoding our transmissions since before we achieved unified government. Earth wasn't an opportunity. It was a trap, and we fell into it. The Admiral's posture had gradually shifted from rigid authority to something approaching caution. Why did they send you back? Why not kill you with the others? To deliver a message, Sendrak said, his voice suddenly calm. The human commander told me to tell our leaders this. The stars belong to everyone or to no one. You came as conquerors, so we showed you only our defenses. Return as equals, and you will see what humanity truly offers. Sendrak's breathing had become labored again, but he continued with surprising strength. Admiral, they could have destroyed our entire fleet. They had the capability. Instead, they allowed us to retreat with this warning. What warning? Zorkel asked, though the dread in his voice suggested he already knew. In our databases, we classified humans as a Category 3 species, isolated, primitive, technologically underdeveloped. Sendrak said. In their databases, the Galactic hegemony is classified as a Category 2 civilization, aggressive, expansionist, technologically advanced, but ethically immature. The implications were staggering. The hegemony had encountered no civilization more advanced than itself in 3,000 years of expansion. The very foundation of their imperial ideology, the manifest destiny to rule the galaxy, crumbled with these words. The human commander said something else. Sendrak continued, as the medical monitor showed his life signs beginning to fade despite Trellvan's interventions. He said if our leaders were wise, we would return to Earth not with weapons, but with diplomats. Not as conquerors, but as applicants. Applicants, the Admiral repeated in disbelief. For what? For membership in what they call the Covenant of Worlds, Sendrak replied. A coalition of advanced species that Earth has been part of for over a century. They said our attack was predicted, expected. a test that every emerging interstellar empire faces, the choice between conquest and cooperation. The warrior's body suddenly convulsed. Trill then rushed to stabilize him, but the damage to his system was too extensive. "Admiral," Sendrak gasped, "they embedded something else in me besides the tracking device. A data crystal. Complete schematics for a new form of propulsion that would make our hyperdrives obsolete. They called it a gift and an invitation." With those words, the last survivor of the Earth invasion force died, leaving the observation room in stunned silence. 3 days later, the Galactic Hegemony Council convened an emergency session. Grand Admiral Zorkel presented his report, including the recovered data crystal, which indeed contained technological specifications far beyond current hegemony science. The debate raged for weeks. Some counselors called for a full-scale assault on Earth with planet-killing weapons. Others argued for a complete quarantine of the Sol system. But in the end, the evidence was irrefutable. Humanity was not what they had appeared to be, and the hegemony had blundered into a test they didn't know they were taking. 6 months later, a single hegemony ship returned to Earth's orbit. Unlike the massive warships of the invasion fleet, this was a diplomatic vessel, unarmed and transparent in its intentions. The message it broadcast was simple: "We come seeking understanding, not conquest. We request dialogue." The response from Earth was equally brief: "Welcome to the greater community of worlds. We've been expecting you." As the diplomatic shuttle descended toward the blue planet, Grand Ambassador Vexera, formerly science officer, reflected on the recommendation she had made months ago to review the classification reports before attacking. The reports, as it turned out, had contained a warning that might have saved 20,000 lives. Species exhibits unique characteristic. When threatened, humans don't cower, they unite. When facing superior force, they don't surrender, they innovate. When encountering advanced technology, they don't worship, they adapt. Approach with extreme caution or genuine friendship. There is no middle ground with humanity.